and welcome to everyone who's joining us right now. You are in the right space. This is the CoCity Leo crowdfund webinar. Hopefully you can all see my screen. David, as we start these things, you've always got the joy of bringing everyone down, and then I've got the job of bringing everyone back up. So you want to take the bad cop, good cop role, but this is very much a necessary thing. So I'll leave this one to you, my friend.
Fantastic. Alex, good to be on, and say hello to Pete as well. Good to be on once again with you. So my name is David Johnson. I'm the CEO of LEOcrowdfunding. We are an equity property crowdfunding platform. And as Alex says, I've probably got the job of the bad cop tonight, but it's just to set the scene that this is a investment opportunity. And obviously there are compliance and regulatory issues that need to be adhered to when it comes to raising funds for property investment, any type of investment. For those that aren't aware, there's actually the FCA put out actually a new policy document just there on the 1st of August. So obviously Alex and his team wanting to make sure that they are adhering to all the compliance and regulatory concerns, are doing this raise under our banner. You see along the bottom there, we are Leo Crowdfunding is our FRN number. We're an appointed representative of a company called Sharon Limited, and they are authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You can read on down there, the last sentence, if you have any doubt about suitability of investing opportunity, certainly seek advice from a qualified person. Tonight is not a recommendation of an investment, but certainly we are preparing and sharing all the information. And just to point out for everyone, I mean, there's been a lot of due diligence carried out by the platform in terms of the accuracy of the information. So Alex and his team have been brilliant in supplying more information than we actually needed to have this approved as a financial promotion. There's just bucket loads and bucket loads of information and documents and forecasts and spreadsheets. So I always enjoy working with these type of fundraisers because they clearly have an eye to detail. So that's just really setting the scene. At the end, I'll jump back in just with what are next steps and how people actually make investments. But it's just to give that kind of large overall sort of umbrella context that this is a financial promotion. And I'll hand back over to Alex from there.
Yeah, no problem. What I'd say, guys, is thank you very much, David. Overall, it's really good to have that introduction. And like I said, it's took us a little bit longer than we expected to get here, but I guess that shows the level of due diligence on compliance and regulation, which should be some comfort as well, and that we've worked that hard to get to this position. And today's session, we've now been live just under 2 weeks, a week and a half. And what we really wanted to do was, we've done quite a lot of informative sessions with yourself, David, and the team and various members of the team. Today, we kind of wanted to leave this as a Q&A. We've already had quite a few Q&A from potentially interested investors, existing investors, and people who maybe want a bit more information about the business or the potential investment that we'll see today. And that's what we wanted to do. The agenda is going to be quite light today, so we're going to cover off a couple of recaps on CoCity, the investment itself, so you guys are all fair with that. We'll probably spend about 15 minutes doing that, and then what we'll do is spend 15-20 minutes just answering questions, and if it's longer it's longer, if it's shorter it's shorter. But we really want it to be interactive, so you should be able to see the buttons down there. Pop the questions into the Q&A box. If you've got them, Pete and David will pick them up and we can answer them between us, myself and Pete from the CoCity side. And then, yeah, hopefully we will have a great session there. So please get some questions. They're there, launch them and challenge us today as well. Pete, before I get on with my splurge, I guess, do you want to maybe introduce yourself from your side?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Alex, and thanks, David. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Pete Craig, and I've worked with Alex and CoCity for the past 3 years. And I kind of look after community and partnerships primarily. So what's at the core of this business model is community. And one of the big things that we know is that this has to be something that we do with other people, with partners, in order for us to be able to scale it and deliver it at the level that we want to deliver it.
Yeah, and Pete is one of the founding members of that founding team, and here, who are also shareholders within the business and working together. And we'll touch a little bit on the team later. But I think first of all, it's always good. I know probably you a lot know about CoCity right now, but we just like to give a little bit of update from anyone who's new. We're very much, the way we talk about CoCity is as an SME developer, and we're trying to reposition ourselves within the real estate industry, and we really focus our whole North Star, our vision is about repurposing how people live, work, and play, and that's looking at how do you create living, which is kind of lifestyle orientated. So not just putting a roof over someone's head. How can that be fit for purpose? How can it be affordable? How can it help reduce cost of living? How can it help reduce your CO2 footprint? How can it be on demand for what you need end to end in your life? You don't just need that space to live. You don't need just that space to work and play. But you also need it there to support your education, your relationships, your well-being, physical, mental, the education, personal development. And we create this platform within our developments to allow the residents to do that. And we'll talk a little bit about this new standard model. But essentially where we're targeting right now to do this repurposing of how people live, work, and play is within the UK. And we're very much focused on working with local authorities and taking really failing real estate, which there's a lot of right now in the high streets. You only need to walk down them. You can see the amount of that, and turning this failing real estate into our bespoke, low carbon, community centered live, work, and play experiences. And the sustainability element, it can be banded around quite a lot, but we worked from our ground up principles, the donut economic piece, and looking at the UN sustainable goals of how can we contribute towards that, as a smaller role, and hopefully that grows. And so repurposing assets that embody carbon savings, bringing the community piece back to life, creating the community around the development was really key. And that's where we're crafting this lifestyle focused living to essentially meet the demands of living in today's modern urban society. And we only need to turn on the tap or the switch on the light to really feel that pinch. And it doesn't just end up in an economic, it's a social, it's a political, it's everything that surrounds us. Living is just a lot tougher than it was. And we want to be able to help and support our residents on that journey. Just as a recap, I think what I'd like to do is make sure that you're all understanding the highlights here. So hopefully that's okay. Essentially what we're offering with this particular investment is the chance to become not just an investor, but a co-owner. Warren Buffett always talks about when you buy shares or stocks in a business, you actually become a co-owner, you become a business owner in that moment. And although that might sound like a very scary thought process, it's not. We want you guys to be alongside us on this journey, and we think that's a really fantastic opportunity for both parties to share in that. And what we're doing right now is selling 8.2% of the business. We're raising £1.3 million. Right now, this tranche is for 700,000. We have a private investment tranche of 600,000, which is through family offices and VC. But this will be the one and only public opportunity to be involved. We have minimum investment size of 10K, which we felt was the right opportunity for people to get involved. And what this kind of allows you to do is not just having a shareholder in the business, but you also become part of the CoCity Founders Club, which is an exclusive club only for investors coming in these rounds, which means you get all of the news first, you get site tours, you get opportunities to participate in future business rounds. And more importantly, you also get the opportunity to become an equity partner in our future real estate deals. So sitting alongside ourselves and gaining the equity levels of return into our projects. And this will be a select few people who will be able to do this. But if you're part of the CoCity Founders Club, which you'd automatically get as part of in this investment round, you will have that opportunity. For us, risk mitigation is a big key, and that's why we wanted to come in here when we had actual assets, live assets that have got value. We've got existing net assets of around £2 million. We've got a GDV pipeline live of 22 million circa, and what we're trying to do here is provide potentially an opportunity for that investment of returning up to 7.4 times your capital, and we hope to do that from year 4 onwards. And on top of that, investors coming in right now potentially could receive annual dividends of 4% plus from year 4 onwards. I mean, what's really key here to understand is that as part of our philosophy is we have an exit hardwired into the business as part of the mandate and the articles that we will provide an exit on year 4. And so, there is an exit there for any investors coming in. And, as you can see on the screen, we hope to return that 7.4 return on your investment. And potentially, if you want to stay in longer, the dividends from year 4. We already had a really good successful round in Q1. We raised £650,000 as a convertible loan note. And we're just building on that piece moving forward as we now start bringing assets into production and we're creating cash flow within the business. This is a really good opportunity to be part of CoCity and its hopefully bright future. So just to quickly touch on our live projects, because I think that's always important. We've got a model here, and we'll discuss this model afterwards. Pete will going to go into a little bit of detail, but the model that we've created isn't just an ethereal piece. It's not just something that's we'd like to have. It's this ubiquitous thought process. It actually is real, and it's manifested in properties that we own. We have one in Aberdeen, we have one in Guildford, and they're the various different elements to our model, this community-centered flexible living product. The site in Guildford, we're just finalising all the strategy, etc., but that will hopefully go to site next month. That's what we're now just working with main contractors. And then Aberdeen as well, we are hopeful that this will go to site in Q4. Everyone has planning in place, like I said, ownership, warrants in place, and very exciting. And again, we can I think we'll do a separate session on this, David, maybe on just the projects so people can understand them a little bit more. But yeah, very exciting. And we really are starting to pave the way about what we're doing and the projects that we're going to be building on from this. So Pete, I don't know, I've been talking a lot now for maybe 5-6 minutes. Maybe you could just quickly go into the community centre flexible living product and talk through it a wee bit.
Sure. So in order to create this model that we created, there were a number of things that we wanted to address, and those primarily were this idea of live, work, and play. So our whole model is built around these principles. We want to bring places together that allow people the flexibility to live, work, and kind of build relationships. I think this is the important piece. This is the piece that's missing within most of society these days, and I think it was really brought to prominence throughout the pandemic that community is far more important than we actually realize. So each of these, if we break them down, the live section, what we wanted to do, and what Alex and the team are really passionate about, is making sure that not only do we create quality, affordable housing that's available to everyone, that we also kind of focus on mixed tenure living. So that means that it doesn't matter what stage of your life that you're at, whether you've just come out of university and you're looking for your first place to live, and perhaps that's going to be kind of like co-living, or whether you are ready to buy your own home, or whether you need some support, and right now you're kind of like receiving support in the form of social housing. We wanted to make our communities and our properties available to everyone. So that was kind of super important. So that's where the live piece where it plays, and that's where the flexibility piece comes in. So we want people to be able to kind of move around and grow within our communities without having to move away every time that they scale up or scale down. The work element, again, we've seen massive changes as a result of the pandemic in the way that we work, with more and more people working from home, and more companies actually releasing some of their assets, and actually allowing people to work more flexibly. And so this has created a huge increase in the demand for co-working spaces. And that was something that we really wanted to focus on and bring into these places, but not just co-working spaces in the form that we've seen before, but co-working spaces that are flexible, that can be used on demand, and that really meet the needs of everyone.
I think as well, like, you know, I think everyone knows about the ups and downs of WeWork, and you know, we didn't want to just create this social WeWork elite. That's not the purpose of this. We really focus on how does that work help the community of residents internally, but externally. So we also work for white collar workers as well. So you know, you might have a career within a corporate job or something else. That's a space you can utilize. It's not just for startups, not just for brand new or established companies. We want everyone to use it and have a dynamic there that creates enterprise, and where they can learn and help each other learn. And I think that was what was a real key piece to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, you know, the play element. You wanted to create spaces where people could connect, where people could enjoy their passions. You know, so this includes things like, you know, bar cafes, you know, exercises. It could be urban gyms. It could be physical gym space, including things like wellness centers. You know, there's been a lot of reports recently and over the last couple of years that come up that highlight, you know, the levels of depression, the levels of anxiety that are present in society. And I think Alex shared a report last week that he'd read in one of the Institute of Mechanical Engineers publications that stated that something like, I think Alex, you'll probably know, but 74% of people acknowledge that they are stressed and have anxiety at work. You know, so those are huge numbers that, you know, can be offset a little bit by creating these spaces within our communities that allow people to get support and get help.
Yeah, I think obviously the anxiety depression piece, if you look at Generation X and Y, you know, some millennials and Generation X, they're probably the worst affected right now in terms of the depression, the anxiety piece. And I think that report you mentioned from before 2020 to 2022, the people who were noting issues mentally, like with mental health, was at 44% prior to COVID, and that had accelerated up to 79% post-COVID. And it's not just the work side; it's you know, it's the stresses of living modern day society. And you know, this play piece for me is one of the most important ones, because that's where you can relax, you can de-stress, you can be with the people you need to be, digitally, physically, and have all the benefits that come from physical interaction with people. And you know, what we wanted to do with our communities is, you know, we're not there to dictate. It's not like this forced mojo, you know, right, we're off to go do yoga, and now we're off to do drill class, and now we're going to play football. We let the residents decide what they want to do and create a circular economy for them, but a space where people actually get involved and teach people what they do, what they're passionate about, and have people together on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final piece that you'll see there, and I think Alex has already touched on this a little bit, is it's super important that you know, these days our developments are sustainable and eco-friendly. So one of the things, again, we wanted to do was make sure that we relieve some of those pressures that people are feeling. Alex talked about, you know, the fact that you turn the tap on and you almost feel the money draining out of your bank account. Same with electricity. So all of our developments are electric, and we're looking at different ways and working with experts in that field to make sure that we are providing the best eco-friendly and the best sustainable energy provision, so as these homes cost as little as possible to run and to operate, and relieve some of those pressures that people are experiencing these days.
Yeah, and we worked closely with a couple of partners who specialize in that clean technology sector, who create the active and passive measures to help create this low to net carbon journey. And we can't do that in everywhere, you know, but we work closely with local authorities and the design team to work out, well, how can we do that and have as little impact as possible. Hence why we repurpose buildings, because 25% of CO2 emissions across the globe come from built environment. and that's a worrying statistic. And by reusing the heaviest burner of CO2, which is steel and concrete being the worst, but keeping your foundations, keeping your slabs, your fabric, your skin, and then the steel structures, you can save, emissions of somewhere between 20 and up to 50-60% across a lifetime of building. It's a really big amount. And that's kind of one of the ways that we try to contribute in that manner.
Absolutely.
What's it, Daisy? So,
Alex, I'll maybe just jump in if that's okay there, because a question that was relevant to what you and Pete were discussing there. So probably if we answer it now, it'll save having to circle back and
let's
get the conversation different ways. So someone's asked there the concept you've been describing, and I personally think it's really it's very refreshing just on a personal basis. I just love the passion you guys bring to this. But a question is a really good question. Have you seen this concept implemented well anywhere, be it in the UK, be it in Europe, somewhere else internationally? And that might give a little bit of insight into your vision and where CoCity can go to.
Yeah, so like mixed use is quite popular. Everyone knows mixed use developments, where you've got commercial, your retail, and then you've got apartments above. And a lot of those apartments might have a forced social from a developer's obligations, and it might then just be all for sale or might be all for rent. So you do have a couple of tenureships. But what happens is it's forced because, one, the developers have to do something because of planning rights, and then the developers then looking, well, what's my best exit there? So there isn't anything where it includes all of those tenures right now. All of those tenures are all established asset classes in their own right. They've been around hundreds, thousands of years in some cases. The same for office space, same for food and beverage, retail. Everything we're working with are already established asset class. There is the live and work piece. So what you'll see is quite a lot of businesses now that create this co-living and co-working concept. The issue is that's where it stops. So, if you don't want to pay a lot of cash for living with other people and then having a work environment and then having these amenities around you, it's great if you do want that, want to share people. But what happens when you don't? You want to have your own place or you want to buy a place. You can no longer live in that and have those same amenities and have that community anymore. You've got to move away. And so we were like, well, that doesn't fit everyone. Everyone's not a round peg and you can't squish that into a square hole. So why don't we create something where you can have all of that, where you can have the mixed tenure, you can level up between, as it's right for you, but you keep your community around you and it's working to create value for you. And that's the true uniqueness of the model. And there is nowhere else that we know of, and Sharon just making sure that we know of from our research that has this unique model. Yeah, they're all proven, and our financial model looks at each one of these in turn and says, right, okay, what's the best split? How do we work it financially to commercialize it, make sure that we're still making money, and we can deliver on this development? Because at the end of the day, no bank will sign off on this if it doesn't stack up. So we've done a lot of work to say, right, what's the best fit? How do we make that fit? Who are the partners that we bring in? Make sure that financially stacks up, but more importantly, from a value perspective, works.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that in many ways, you and your team are visionaries, you're pioneers? There may be the odd scar, maybe the odd scar being the pioneer, but you're going to get first mover advantage, which is hugely significant in this space. If you deliver a model and enjoy first mover advantage and can create this model, it takes other people time to catch up while you're just breaking new ground and doing more projects right across the UK and beyond.
Yeah, I think Pete's probably going to say something here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think something important to kind of just point out here is that if you read many of a lot of the guidance that's coming through for local authorities, specifically some of the guidance that we've looked at in Scotland, and I know in various areas of the UK or England is exactly the same. There's a huge emphasis on community and on this type of development. This is what they want. It's what they're being encouraged to do, and yet right now no one is providing that. So there's a demand for it from local authorities, from councils who we're working closely with to deliver this. So the model is kind of like being supported at the highest level. It just hasn't filtered down yet because many developers are still just focused on the profits at the end of the day and taking as much from the development as they can. Whereas what we're trying to do is make sure that, yes, as a business we make money, but we also want to give something much more back. And in doing that, we increase the value of the company overall because we're actually creating something that we're passionate about and that we're holding on to.
Yeah,
so
I think.
Go on, carry on, Alex.
No, I was just going to add to that and say, we're speaking to 29 plus local authorities, and we have been since May. And we went to an event in May and we started talking to them about what our product is, our partners, and they were like, "We need you. Our mandate is we need to get to net zero. We've got all of these assets. We don't know what to do. We need to make social impact. We need to create community." But no one can offer that. They're just, how do we do it? So we just go and speak in at the highest level. How do we do this? How can we help you? Let us look at it. We'll run the model. We'll see how we can support you on this journey as well. And there's been such a big positivity. I mean, I'm up in Scotland right now. I'm speaking to the local MP in Aberdeen, and we're going to go into the government. We're actually going to go to Scottish government and talk further about this, about how we can work the policy piece and how we can bring this to more cities across Scotland. And that's a great piece to be. One of our projects we're hoping. Well, we know that the Scottish government, the Scottish National Investment Bank's interested in funding it because it's a massive social impact. It has a huge opportunity. We're turning an old defunct oil and gas business into potentially a net zero community centred live, work, play experience. That's a great transition story to have. And that's what we're trying to do, not just in Aberdeen, Scotland, but across England and Wales as well.
Just to answer, yeah, I've seen that, David. So I was just going to say, Mark, you're absolutely right. This is the 15-minute city concept. And as we talk more, I think we're going to do this in the next couple of slides. We talk more about the different products that we have. Our village product is based on the 15-minute city, and actually within the guidelines that the Scottish government are putting out, they refer to the 20-minute neighbourhood, which is very similar to the 15-minute city concept. So these are absolutely things that we're basing a lot of our model on.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if there's any more questions in there, David. That worth answering.
No, Pete answered that last one there, or commented on the comment that was made in the Q&A. So.
Yeah, and Mark, like the Carlos Moreno piece, obviously he was the kind of visionary of this. We've worked with quite a few anthropologists as well with some of our, because we've got 2 village concepts that we're in our pipeline. One that's been in there for a while that we have backing from a council, but we've got to get some challenges across the line for the vendor itself. But those 15-minute city concept, yes, we're creating this place, but it's the whole CoCity ethos as right. Well, let's first of all create an established, diverse community. If you just do all sales or all PRS or private rental sector, you're bringing only one type of person into that, and you want to bring a diversity of people into the space to make a true abundant community and create this story. So our villages really reflect that, but then more importantly, the commercial space then is more experiential. It's what people want to do, spend their time with. It's on demand. It can change. It can flex, and that's really important. And that village concept then we distill down into 2 other projects, which is the hub, which is very much a city centre orientated piece. So kind of vertical stacked. You've got your food and beverage, your co-working, serviced office, and then your co-living and rental. And then we have a spoke, which is much larger, midtown living, where you're closer to the countryside, more ability to get out. You've got more amenity space. It's a higher plethora of tenureship and of retail, etc. But all of these are built around social mobility and the social mobility patterns of residents, because not everybody now wants to live in city centre. Yes, we've still predicted that I think 78% of people by 2050 are going to be living in cities or in city areas. People still will choose to live in midtown, conurbations, so they can get into city centres in 5-10 metres. 10 minutes, but they still have the luxury of being a little bit closer countryside and have that more space. And that's what our product is able to do, which means we're open to taking on more sites and making those work. I think what's really important then is to you know, I always say, and I've mentioned this on everyone, is a development company is only as good as its team and its pipeline. You know, we really focus on the pipeline. You know, this was one of our bottlenecks, and we've mentioned this. I'm quite open with that. Is we had a lot of projects come through. You know, we've been speaking to a lot of local authorities, but we didn't have the capacity to be able to process these, analyze them, make bids, move them through that pipeline process. And we brought on a new team member back in June, who's now allowed us to do this. And we've got some really exciting projects right across the country. And you know, it's probably a little bit more than this now because we've got a couple of additional projects in. But this was as of, I think, June. It says March, but as of June, you know, 300+ million within our pipeline, where we've got an exclusivity, ability to take an option and then move that forward. And there's some really exciting things in here because, you know, we only need a fraction of that to kind of this pipeline to, one, deliver and over deliver of our financial projections, but it also reflects where we are as a business. You know, we've started, we had to create that momentum, we've built a team, but we're now having opportunities given to us. And I think it was a really good moment. We went to Dundee, and Dundee up in Scotland. Some people think, what the hell? But we went to visit them off of the back of a conference, Scottish Cities Alliance piece, and they actually pitched to us. You know, they were pitching the city and why we should be supporting and partnering them. And, you know, that was a really nice moment. It was great because obviously we pitched them back. But, you know, it was nice to see that we've moved that and we're bringing that momentum forward, and we're able to bring these really great projects of 200-300 homes, mixed use, mixed tenure to bear. So I think, you know, just trying to summarize, we took a lot of slides out because we didn't want to spend a lot of time just talking about CoCity. You know, I'm happy to answer loads of questions. You know, we can provide a data room if needed. We can create more information. You know, we can have a chat with David, Dahl, and myself. But what we did want to do is talk a little bit about the future. And what we're trying to do is create a network effect of these communities. And we've mentioned about the hub and the spoke. That's really important for us because having a hub and a spoke allows people to, one, maybe live outside, but can work in city centres, but they can then also utilise all of those amenities, right? Imagine you worked out in you know, you worked in the midtown location of Glasgow, Paisley, for example, in one of our developments. You got more space, great, but you want to then go and work in Glasgow city centre. Well, you go in, use the co-working space, you can use the service office space. You might have clients come over, they can stay in the co-living, that use the PRS, you're getting all the discounts, but more importantly, you know what your product you're going to get. And we then wanted to create that CoCity brand and take it around the UK, such that, you know, if you were in Glasgow but needed to then live or move or work in London, you could go down there with confidence, go straight to CoCity space, know what you're going to get, know the community, plug straight in, and have that kind of homely feel. And, you know, our plan is to build a hub and spoke in 16 specific cities that we've done a lot of research on for our particular demographics, and then work to repurpose and regenerate those cities alongside the local authorities with this low carbon live, work and play community centre model. We do have aspirations of Europe where actually our model is a lot more recognised and adopted, I would say, than maybe perhaps the UK. And, you know, but for now, over the next 3 to 5 years, that's our focus of building out these cities and working with those local authorities. So, Pete, I don't know if maybe you want to touch a little bit on the team, and then I can jump in and we can, you know, have more questions.
Sure. So yeah, it was important for us that we had a team that could actually fulfill on all of these developments. And you can see, you know, from what Alex has just shared, yeah, the pipeline is quite significant, and some of the developments that we're looking at are, are not small developments. So it was really important that we had a team that had experience of delivering on those scale of projects. So we brought Karen Campbell on as the MD and head of development. Karen has got a lot of experience, 20 years in real estate. But the thing that's really important is that she's actually been involved in building cities in large scale, both commercial and residential developments with people like Manchester, HS2, Manchester City Airport. She was responsible for building a city in Scotland. So she has the experience that's necessary in order to move those types of projects forward. Similarly with Philip, who we brought on as the CFO. Philip has 25 years experience managing funds specifically for large scale real estate developers across the UK. So very, very experienced in looking at these types of developments and working with these types of projects. Michael is the employee that we brought on most recently, and who is an investment analyst who is now working with Karen and Philip to support us on looking at our pipeline and making sure that we do proper feasibility reporting on every one of those before they get submitted to our investment committee and before we take each one forward. So we're putting in levels of due diligence to make sure that every decision we make is tested as robustly as possible.
I think just to add to that, I mean, like the founding four there, there's about 60, 70 years of experience in real estate between them, and my background, I didn't mention that, sorry, for those who don't know, I'm a chartered mechanical engineer, and I've worked in basically heavy infrastructure, deploying, designing, construction right across all of those spaces, right across the globe, project managing, project engineering. And the last project I did was about £500 million in a corporate role. But across that space, in the built environment, there's maybe 60, 70 plus years of experience there. Probably a lot more, actually, if I properly count it up. And it was important for us, and myself, to build a team who could succeed, who had the passion and wanted to get involved, but believed in what we were trying to do. And all of these are, like I said, are founder members bought into the business, as well as the ambassadors alongside of that. And I think that really says a lot. David, I know there's maybe a question there. I don't know if we want to answer that piece, or we want to.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, I do have to drop off in a minute, as you know, so maybe I'll do the wrap up as in my bit, and then you can go back to the Q&A. Would that sure. That work okay? Just to sort of put back the context of what our next steps. So obviously Alex and Pete are going into a lot of really good detail tonight, trying to give you an idea of what their vision is, what their plan is, the fact that it's obviously based on real data, real trends, real meetings with councils, etc. So it's like, for those that want to take a next step and say, okay, I need more information, there are two routes to that. After this webinar, Alex's team will send a email out, and there'll be a link on that email which will take you to what we call the landing pages or the pitch pages. So on the left hand side of the screen there is what you will land on. You'll be able to see, this was the screenshot from before, so you'll be able to see actually there's investment on already, obviously now that it's a live raise, and then there'll be overview of the opportunity, a bit on the financials, a bit on the team, and then also a live closed forum where you can ask questions. Alex and the team can answer those questions. So that's like the overview summary, and then you're able to, once you've registered in the platform, you then can download what's called the equity offer document, or the investment memorandum. As you can see, that contains all the information about the opportunity, the details, the financials, and that has been approved as a financial promotion. So I want to really make that clear. That information has been approved by an FCA authorized principal to be viewed, for investment purposes. So that's really the document you want to get your hands on, download it, have a look at it, and then any questions that you have, then you can come back to Alex and the team from there. So I don't know, is there a picture of Dal, the very last one in this one,
Yeah,
Alex?
I think,
yeah, so just to mention this before we go, some of you may wonder if you get a contact from Dal. Dal is our investor portfolio manager. He works very closely with Alex and the team. So if one of Alex's investors or CoCity investors registered the platform, Dal is like the point of contact. There's an AML needs done, KYC needs done. There's a short appropriateness test gets done, and if any issues arise there, just a point of contact. It's Dal's the person. So just to make you aware of that, you might get an email from him at some point. So that's probably all from me, Alex. If there are any questions arise, from the crowdfund side, I can answer those separately in an email.
No worries. I think what's important to note, this is actually, we should have updated this. This was my mistake. But yeah, we already have investors on. The last time we checked, I think it might have just increased, but we had over £82,000 pledged. We've also got other soft pledges of well over £140,000 yet to come onto this system. But the target is 350,000, and we're working towards that very, very quickly. And yeah, like I said, there's already investors involved in this. And if you want to, like I said, and David's mentioned, if you want more information or you want to understand a little bit more the financial side, we did a whole webinar on the finances. Again, we've got financial projections, which we're happy to share. Sharon have reviewed those as well, and we can talk around those if that's something you would find useful. But click on that link here. Go in. What I would say, click on the link, download, put your details in, register, and if this is something that's of interest, feel free to make the pledge. Otherwise, get in contact with us, and if you have any more questions.
If I just say before I go here, one of the advantages of this model of using a crowdfunding platform is that we kind of take the pressure off Alex and the team of investor management. So we want, obviously, Alex and Pete and the team to get on with delivering projects, not spend, particularly in Alex's case as the CEO, you don't want him spending 4 or 5 days a week just talking to investors and trying to manage investors. So we fulfill that function, obviously in line with compliance and regulation. And that, Alex, that frees you up and the team to get on with doing what obviously you want to do, which is deliver projects.
We try, but it sometimes doesn't always work like that, right? God makes plans. Man makes plans, but God laughs. But yeah, we do try that though. Anyway, David, it's true.
Best as possible. So listen, I'll let you go. And I certainly at the start today to be on board with this. Love the vision, love the passion, and potentially making a huge difference to society in the UK. So absolutely fantastic. I'll jump off. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Pete, is there, I don't want to spend too long, but is there any other questions we can answer?
Yeah, we've got 2 questions. So the first one is, what sort of operational responsibilities will the company retain post-development? I think that's a really good question. Yeah,
it is really good. And I would show you a business and corporate structure chart. Essentially what you guys are investing, and this is in the equity investment document. So log on to there and download it, because you will get all that information. But this is a development company that you're getting the ability to invest in. But because of the model, the key is about how we build and curate community. Why is that? Because by building community, you build loyalty. By building loyalty, you build opportunity for to monetize and commercialize that. And what's really key is that we will also then create an operational business, and that operational business already has a demand, right? Because the development companies are building, so naturally that feed in the operational. So there's already a demand for that. And that operational business will then look after this property. It'll bring in facility managers. It'll do all of the renting piece. It will look after all of the mixed tenure. But more importantly, it will do the relationships. And it's the relationships that's really key, of curating and grooming that piece. So we will retain the operational piece. Like I said, one of our ethoses is when we sell, we only sell to people who really need homes. So the rental aspect we'll control. That'll go into the development portfolio. So it's great for investors. It creates rent. We get fees. We get capital chunks from sales. That all creates your dividends and growth and helps the business flourish in the development company. But then the operational business also has its potential as well. Pete, did that make sense? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I think ties in really to the next question. Next question was, do you have a detailed business plan? And all of this information is available within the data room that is accessible once you've gone onto the Leo crowdfunding platform.
Yeah, so I mean, Leo crowdfunding, there's a couple of documents there. For those who after more information, please feel free to contact myself or Dal, and we can provide that. We put a huge amount of data together, all of the previous investors, explaining contracts and bits and pieces, and business plans, financial projections, the data rooms of the existing projects, etc. So you can really get hands in on there. But yes, to answer your question, we do have a business plan. We create a 2-page business plan that drives us as a business from a year piece down into quarterlies, and we use objectives and key results to kind of measure that and make sure that we're hitting our targets, as well as hitting those targets. Obviously, that generates the revenue and the return for potential investors as well, as we mentioned.
We've got one more question. How have we factored the market growth and indices rise in the likes of steel, concrete, etc., particularly with the availability of materials due to Russia, Ukraine, and Brexit impact? Had this been factored into the cost and delivery of the model? Yes. So I guess this is a slide here, which is about risks and mitigations. So you can, again, this is all in the equity offer slide, but you can see in here. So our partners who we use, we look to work on lean construction methods and how we can leverage their own local supply chains. What we do is each project has to stack up, remember, to be able to be funded by the bank. As part of the kind of typical project due diligence, we create contingencies, but we also try and work on fixed price lump sums. And for example, the project in Guildford, that's what we signed up, a D&B contract, fixed price lump sum. So we've got cost certainty, and that risk is then moved on to the contractor. Like anything, you can't, there is risk and you try and mitigate, but you can't mitigate everything. But essentially, we will take on projects only where it can stack up. And like I said, we've got the contingency there. And we also work within the local authorities piece. That's part of the model, right? Is that we're creating this unique model of low carbon live, work and play. To do that, we say to the local authorities, okay, well, what assets do you have and how can you provide financial incentives to make this work or help us along that way? So our partnering effect also helps us kind of to alleviate that. Okay, and one last question from Alok. He says, have we defined CoCity values? And I know this is something that has always been really important for you, Alex. So I'm going to let you answer that one and just share that. Just trying to so these are all backup slides. So all of these are in the equity offer document. So if you're seeing things and saying, stop, I want to look at that, you can see them all. Just click on this link. You can see there and you will be able to download that. But Alok, really good question, and not to make you feel sick, but you can see what you've got is a live, work and play piece, and our values are attached below that. So obviously the sustainability, that's not so much a value but a core principle. Like that is part of what we create. As I mentioned, work with the Kate Raworth donut economics, the UN sustainable goals, to try, and we built that core up as opposed to kind of just trying to put it at the top and get tick box exercise. But the community growth and flexibility, they're really CoCity's core values. And we try and do that in an inside out approach, which basically means anyone who works in the business has got to respect and embody those key values, but also our residents. We want people who also want to, grow, want to be flexible, want the community. Otherwise, we don't want people there. We don't want them there if they don't come. That sounds like a really weird thing to say, like, well, you need residents. Why are you being picky? Well, we want people who really care, who embody those that are going to help the development and help themselves. That's why we want people who want to grow. We want people who want to create the flexibility in life, but people who want to work with communities. And the way we set up the operations, how we interview our guests and our residents coming on, whether it's rental, home ownership,
that's part of that process. And yeah, this is something that we really key with, especially as well, not just the resident side, it's not just the staff, but our partners, making sure that everyone's vision and values are aligned to make this community-centered flexible living product really work.
We've just had one more question come in. Does the model have an early cash flow, or does the development need to be complete first, i.e. fully committed to completion?
No, that's a really good question. So we create cash flow through 3 mechanisms: fees, development management fees, and our first fees we're generating as of this month, and that will continue as each project comes on. So the next one will be Q4, and then throughout the pipeline, and as that grows. So those management fees feed the business. We hit break even in terms of cash flow neutral, so the costs that we incur versus the income that we receive, that becomes cost neutral by the end of this year, and then from Q1 becomes positive because we have those management fees. On top of that, we have rent. So once we finish these projects, actually I'll take the rent back. We then have cash inputs because obviously we have sales, so capital receipts. So we will sell properties. This creates cash. We get that into the business at the end. And then on top of that, we have rent because we will hold a number of these properties. Our financial model works out what that looks like. It could be 5, 10, could be up to 50%, depending on what that requirement is. That then creates rent in perpetuity, whether it's commercial or residential. And so those three elements, as you can see, as you start feeding the machine and more come on, the more properties you hold and the more sales you make, that's what sustains and feeds the cash flow of the business. So hopefully that explains things.
Thanks, Alex. And yeah, Alok's just made another comment. It's not a question this time, but a statement, and that's actually very true. He says having strong active values can drive difficult decisions that the business faces. That's absolutely true. It does, but it really holds us to account, and it means that we really have to live and we really have to believe in, not just ourselves, but everyone that comes onto the team and everyone that works with us has to believe in this, in those values, and believe in what it is that we're trying to create, and believe that there's a need for it within society right now. So yes, it does. It can create some difficult decisions, but we think that just actually gives us more strength.
Yeah, and I mean we've done this already. Like our project in Aberdeen, we had an easy option of trying to remove the 25% social housing and just put in normal housing, right? Because that would have created more revenue because we wouldn't have had to do it as a discount. But it was like, no, well, that's not providing the flexible tenure model that we're aspiring to. It's also not hitting the mandates of local authorities. In this case, was to try and aspire to 20-25%. And you know, it would have been easy for us to do that. It would have created more revenue, made the project easier. But we said, no, let's stick with that. You know, and that's paid dividends now because we brought on an RP that pre-bought 25% at a very, very high level, almost market level anyway. But they're built into our core principles and our community model. So actually, it's worked out even better in our favour by having that, because we managed to pre-sell. It's better for the bank. We've got a partner who's on board, who's aligned, and that creates more opportunity in the future. So they do create issues, but they also create opportunity. And I think that's why it's important to stick to them.
Cool. Okay. So right now, there's no more questions. If anyone's got any final questions, then just pop them in right now. Otherwise, feel free to contact either Dal or any one of the team, or go onto the Leo crowdfunding platform, register, and then you can submit even more questions. You can get access to the data that's available on there, and you can kind of really scrutinize everything that we've talked about tonight and ask further questions through the forum that's also available to people that are registered for the platform.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, obviously we'd love you to invest tonight, but if anything, hopefully you've got an insightful way of how real estate can evolve and how we're doing it, and hopefully you've took away some insights out of that. We're always happy to field more questions and talk about this, but if you did want to invest in anything, in a company that prioritizes people, places and planet, then feel free, click that link that you can see, download the documents, and let us know, and hopefully we see you on the ride. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything else from my side Pete, anything else from yours?
No, I just want to extend thanks to everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you for the questions. Really useful for us to be asked these questions. It helps us kind of like explain what it is that we're doing better every time. And we hope that we've answered all of those questions for you. But if anything comes up for you, I know sometimes it does the day after or a couple of hours time, then just make a note of those and feel free to send them across, and we'll happily answer those or jump on a call with you to go through those in more detail.
Okay, guys, much appreciated. Thanks very much for your time. Have a great evening, and catch you later.